Really quick, everybody, this entire video will be timestamped, so if you don't want to watch holding and just get straight into a different topic, please check the pinned comment or the little red bar right down below you. Again, this entire video will be timestamped, and I'd appreciate you guys watching whatever part that you'd like to. If you're sticking around, guys, hello, everybody, and welcome back to another video. If you're new here, my name is Kyle. I'm your guy with too many YouTube channels, and welcome back to everything that you missed this week in MMA. This is a series on the channel that we do every single Friday, so subscribe if you'd like to be kept up to date on all things MMA. This is where we talk about everything that you missed, whether it's big news that everybody heard of, whether it's something with Conor McGregor and the Ultimate Fighter, or it's some fighters going against each other that you've never heard about before. We cover everything in this video. Let's get started. Again, guys, timestamps are there if you would like to use them. First up, it's actually Bellator and Rizen news. You know that card they had on New Year's? Well, they're doing it again. It's Bellator versus Rizen 2. The card has been announced and the event has been announced, and I gotta say, I absolutely love it. I didn't get to watch the first one, unfortunately, but I am so hyped to see this. Even though Bellator just kind of stomped them, I'd be down to see an event like this where it's just two organizations going at each other. My dream one that will never happen is the UFC and One Championship. I would absolutely love to see some matchups like they used to do, or like that one time they did with Mighty Mouse, where it's a Muay Thai MMA. I think that would be phenomenal. Amazing. My two favorite organizations going against each other, but Bellator versus Rizen 2 is actually a great thing, and I'm really looking forward to it. Next up, in case you were interested in this one, so Sam Alvey snapped his 9-fight win streak. He fought on some, as far as I know, it's a little bit of a no-name promotion. I'm not familiar with what he fought on exactly, but I've seen the highlight. It was everywhere. Smiling Sam Alvey. It was good to see him get a win. Now everybody's just memeing around saying like, hey, bring this guy back in the UFC, Dana, but I'm happy for him. I'm a big fan of Smiling Sam. Okay, now here's an interesting one. Jingliang versus the Korean Zombie may be on the horizon. We don't know for sure yet because especially this isn't even something the UFC said they're working on, but Lee is open to cutting down to fight the Korean Zombie. That's crazy. I don't know if he can make that cut. He's probably, I don't know if he's undersized for his division, but that's insane. That is insane to cut down to featherweight. Maybe they can meet at 155. I don't know, but Lee is open to cutting down to fight the Korean Zombie. Oh, man. Probably might get chinned in that one, so we'll see what happens. We'll see if the UFC actually works on it. We'll see if Lee was serious about doing this. Speaking of fights that people want, Bryce Mitchell versus Movsar Evloev might be rebooked because Bryce Mitchell just posted that he wants to fight the fight that he already had signed and unfortunately had to pull out of. I believe it was a week before. Was I wrong? Regardless, he was fighting Movsar and he pulled out, and then Movsar went on to look fantastic in his fight. So Bryce Mitchell called him out for August 5th, and I don't see why the UFC or Movsar would not want to do that. I don't like the matchup for Mitchell, personally, but hey, the guy's a dog. Next up, the first episode of The Ultimate Fighter finally aired, and I gotta say, the MMA community is very upset about this one because everybody's calling it the episode very boring. I watched it on Fight Pass afterwards, so I wasn't like really bothered by the ads, but people were really bothered by the amount of ads that were there, and we only got to see one fight, which, spoiler alert, was like 10 seconds long, but it's The Ultimate Fighter. I enjoyed seeing Conor McGregor again. I enjoyed seeing Chandler, so I wasn't bothered specifically because I did not have any ads through the entire thing because, again, I watched it on Fight Pass. I just enjoyed it. I liked seeing the fighters. I liked seeing the next set of talent coming into the UFC, and while the episode could be better, and I certainly enjoyed other seasons that I've watched more with their first airing episode, I wasn't upset by it at all, so I don't know what everybody's going on about, but again, maybe the ads were really that bad. We also have an update for Guram Kutateladze. He just canceled his fight and had to pull out, but thankfully, it was not because of injury. This dude's been out for so long because of injuries, but the reason that he pulled out of the fight was because of visa issues, actually. So he's already looking to get his next fight, which is very, very nice to see. Let's just hope that he doesn't get injured along the way. Next up, Colby Covington wants to fight Conor McGregor. After Colby Covington beats Leon Edwards, he is welcoming Conor McGregor to fight up at 170 pounds, which Conor McGregor has expressed interest in, not fighting Colby specifically, but expressed interest in the 170 pounds. Like just like with Chandler, he said the fight might be at 185. So the dude's big right now. The dude looks big. But oh man, Colby would stomp him. I don't even know if Conor would take that fight. But then again, if it's a legitimate 170-pound strap, Conor might take that fight. So I don't know, man. If Colby beats Leon, this isn't out of the question. Imagine Conor comes in, just starts his Chandler, looking better than ever. Colby wins too. He comes out, calls out McGregor. They end up making that fight because if the two fighters won it, the UFC would for sure give Conor McGregor a welterweight title fight. What am I talking about? That's crazy. but I'm kind of here for it because the trash talk would be amazing. Next up, Rafael Fiziev might have his next fight on the horizon. He took to Twitter and asked who wants to fight him. 2 fighters responded. Renato Moicano wants a rematch, and Gamrot specifically responded and said that he wants to fight in September. So I would actually I don't know, man. I like both fights. I like all of those fighters too, so I don't want to like pair them up and then be like, oh, I really like Moicano, I really like Fiziev, and I really like Gamrot. I wouldn't want to watch any of them lose. So maybe I'm not all for these fights, but stylistically, oh man, I would even like to see the Moicano rematch. That would be great. No matter where this goes, and if the UFC takes it, it makes sense in the division, and it'd be really hype. Next up, Cain Velasquez has been back in the MMA news, and get this is a little bit interesting because he was asked about his MMA future, and I started seeing headlines on it everywhere, and I was like, no way, there's no way Cain Velasquez is coming back. But thankfully, Cain Velasquez said that he is not coming back to MMA, and he is just going to remain a coach for fighters at AKA. Cain Velasquez would make for an incredible coach, especially if you want to bring like Cain and Cormier there, 2 of the greatest heavyweights of all time. I would love to see who they coach and who they bring up from the gym, which obviously they've been coaching for a little while, but like, you don't see Cain in a lot of corners, you know? Like, maybe I just haven't been paying attention. No, yeah, obviously, because he's been with his situation. I just remembered that. But Cain Velasquez is not going to come back to the UFC. He was just asked about it and said that he wants to coach from this point forward. Moving on, we have an update on Merab Dvalishvili. He is, of course, had hand surgery, and he's going to be sidelined for at least 3 to 4 months. So I don't know if the 3 to 4 months is when he can start training again, or when he'll feel ready to take a fight or start a training camp. Who knows, but we're not going to see him at least for 4 months. Now, we do have some news for this weekend. Of course, if you haven't heard, last night, Jared Gordon pulled out of the fight, but now Jim Miller is fighting Jesse Butler this weekend. I don't know why Jared Gordon got a fight in the first place, because the reason had something to do with his concussion symptoms. I'm not 100% on that. Regardless, he pulled out, and I couldn't believe that he was fighting 3 weeks after he just got knocked out. That was unbelievable. So I'm glad Gordon's out of the fight, although it was a nice matchup for Jim Miller, and I'm a big Jim Miller fan, so I would have been like, yeah, knock him out, but I'm not saying like to give the poor guy head trauma, you know what I mean? But against Jesse Butler, I'm still going to cheer for Jim Miller, one of my favorite fighters of all time. I don't know if this will be a tougher matchup. Probably would, because Jared Gordon, I can't see the dude coming in after just getting knocked out and performing well, you know? Next up, Chris Daukaus is out of UFC 289. They didn't specify why, but you know what? They might have saved him a possible beating from Khalil. That, I don't know. I just didn't like that matchup for him, but he's out of the fight, so it looks like, I don't know if they mentioned that they're going to find a replacement for UFC 289. They're not going to rebook the matchup, though. I know I did not read that anywhere, but regardless, Daukaus is out of the fight. All right, guys, let's move on to the section with fight announcements. This is all the announcements that have come out this week, and there's a lot of good ones, actually. Okay, ready? We're going to rapid fire this. This is the one that sticks out to me. I will talk about it for a second. Gabriel Bonfim versus Trevin Giles at UFC 291. Bonfim, always exciting to watch. And speaking of exciting to watch, we have Ode Osborne versus Azu Almabayev on August 5th. Tagir Ulanbekov versus Jake Hadley on August 5th. Benoit St. Davis versus Ismail Bonfim. Always love to watch Bonfim fight. That one I am excited for on July 1st. And Vink Pitchell pulled out, Austin Lingo versus Melquizel Costa. I don't believe I'm familiar with that fighter, on July 15th. Joanne Wood versus Priscilla Cachoeira on July 29th. July 29th. Matthew Samuelsberger versus Johan Lioness at UFC 291. Roman Kopylov versus Claudio Ribeiro at UFC 291. That fight is going to be a banger. Can't wait to see that one. David Drowick versus Steven Urseg on UFC 289. Matt Schnell unfortunately pulled out. I like watching Matt Schnell fight, so this is unfortunate on my end. Blagoy Ivanov versus Alexander Romanov, July 1st. That makes a lot of sense in the division, so I'm excited for that one. Also, Poliana Viana versus Aisman Lucindo on August 12th. Then we finally have, a very good one, Andre Petrosky versus Gerald Mearshart on August 19th. And finally, maybe the best one, Curtis Blades versus Gelton Almeida on November 4th. That is a matchup where we will really, really judge how good Almeida is. I love watching Curtis Blades fight too. Man, so many of these fights got announced, and they're all so good. Now, for fights that are going on this weekend, there's a couple of events that you might want to check out, but it's primarily Kara France versus Albazi in the UFC. Like, next weekend, you have the UFC. It's going to be fantastic. But right now, as far as I know for UFC, everybody made weight. There is no update as of the time of recording this video, so hopefully all the fights stay intact. The card is very underrated, so guys, Check it out, and thank you so much for watching this video. If you are new here, we do this video every single Friday, keeping you up to date on all things MMA. So subscribe if you would like to stick around, guys, and be up to date. If you want to keep watching the channel, we have 2 fantastic videos for you to check out right now, right on the screen. Go check them out. They're pretty great. I will see you there, guys. Take care.